organisms evolve to become resistant to these drugs, making infections harder to treat, posing a serious public health threat. Now, joining me to provide insight on this issue and discuss strategies to combat antimicrobial resistance is Dr. Chioma Udumegu, consultant pediatrician, member Nigerian Society of Pediatric Infectious Disease and AMS team, UNTH. You're welcome on the program, ma'am.
Thank you, Marvelous.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
So this week has been Antimicrobial Week, and sensitization, awareness campaign, lots of things that are happening. So I'd like you to, walk us through what's been happening throughout the week before we go right into our discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Globally, 18th to 24th of November is recognized and marks the Antimicrobial Resistance Awareness Week. This whole week is set apart to draw the attention of the whole world and to draw the attention of everyone to the rising resistance to everyday antibiotic and antimicrobial use. For us in Enugu and all over Nigeria, we've been involved in different campaigns to different places to raise awareness. We had an awareness walk on Tuesday at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital. On Wednesday, we're on radio to create awareness, and then on Thursday, we're at Ido River Girls Secondary School to talk to the young girls, because we find that young girls are also another group of people that abuse antibiotics for different reasons. If we have time, we can talk about that, especially in the concept of infections and all those toilet infections and all whatnot. We find that young girls also abuse antibiotics a lot. And then also we've been to the market. We have been having a market on Friday to create awareness on antibiotic misuse. And then yesterday, Saturday, we were at the New Artisan Market at the abattoir to talk to, the meat handlers, people that slaughter and kill, that slaughter the cow and goats, the meat that we eat. We also find that there's another group of people that abuse antibiotics, using it for their animals, and the impact of that on human health.
Please, I would like you to emphasize more on that meat.
Yeah, so, like when we were there yesterday at Artisan Market, and it was quite an eye-opener.
Okay.
First of all, let me talk about the environment. If you've been to the abattoir there to maybe kill your goat or cow, you'll be surprised to see the environment, because you see the animal excreta. Just walking around through the market, you have to be careful not to step on animal excreta, because it's everywhere, And the thing is that this becomes a medium for infection. Those that handle this animal waste, individuals that walk into the market and step on these things, people that inhale excreta from animals, and also the handling, all these things predispose to what we call zoonotic infection, zoonosis. This is a situation where animals transmit infections to humans. So you see that a human can have, some sort of fever, or you think you have a pneumonia or something. You may not really know that the infection you have is not a strain from humans, but a strain from animals. Now again, while we were in the market, we came across bottles of antibiotics that had been used lying on the floor. So we picked up some samples. And by the time we engaged one or two people, then we picked them up and said, have you seen this bottle? What's it used for? They said, oh, we give it to our animals. When they ship these animals down from in the north, you know how they pack the animals in the trailers and the animals come down east. Some of these animals come in tired, and they think maybe the animals have injuries. And then they give those antibiotics to treat injuries in animals. And you wonder, what's the connection between the use of antibiotics?
Who gave them the orientation?
So this was what we found out yesterday. We took samples from the market. So this wasn't a story. This was my real experience with my colleagues as we went on that outreach into the market. And, they said when they give those medications that they realize that the animals feel better. So that's why we're talking about antibiotic misuse. So they misuse this in animals. At the end of the day, who consumes these animals?
We do.
We do. Great. So that's the concept of One Health. So you see that we are all intertwined in the concept of One Health. Both animal health, human health is one big umbrella. And this whole week, we're out to raise awareness against misuse of antibiotics.
Okay, can you explain the concept of AMR and why it is a pressing global issue?
Yes, it's a pressing global issue because clinicians, those of us in clinical care, like myself and a lot of other people, clinicians have found that there are rising incidences of resistance to antibiotics. So we find that antibiotics or antimicrobials generally, because when we say antimicrobials, we're talking about antibiotics, antivirals, antifungals, antiprotozoals, all the drugs that you use against microbes. So antimicrobials means against, anti is against, microbes, of course you know they are microorganisms or microbes, the ones that cause infections. So the whole concept is that in clinical care we're beginning to find that there are rising incidences of resistance to drugs that where individuals would naturally previously respond to, what we call susceptibility.
Okay.
Before now, you give these antibiotics to people who are sick and they recover. But right now, you administer the same antibiotics and people don't respond anymore to them. And this all occur because of resistance. The body gets used to those antibiotics, especially when they are used without prescription, illicit use of antibiotics. You know the whole over-the-counter thing.
Yeah.
You walk into a patent medicine store and say, mix mogo. You know how we say it in our language. You see now one mix mogo. You know, for those that don't understand it, but you just walk in and say, I'm not feeling well, please mix medication. And then they mix. And sometimes you find medication that you should take normally for maybe 5 days, you just take it for 2 days and then you stop. That's an underuse of antibiotics. So misuse can either be an underuse or an overuse. So when you use antibiotics indiscriminately, you underuse. That means you're using what we call the subclinical or subtherapeutic dosing. That is below the recommended standard of dosing. The organism now is not totally cleared from the system. They begin to cohabit with the medication and before time get used to it. What you call, how do you say it? C-finish. The organism now develops a C-finish to your drug and becomes resistant to those medications. So this is the issue.
So you know, you earlier mentioned that young girls abuses antibiotics more.
Yes.
Why do you think this is? What do you think is the reason behind?
Yes, so like I did mention, you know, young girls are a vulnerable group.
Okay.
You know, there are challenges of growing girls, and some of those challenges emanate from lack of open communication with elder people or mentors, I don't know, or parents, let me put it that way, or guardians, you know. And when young girls encounter difficulties, they try to solve it within their little circle. So they just, you know, and then myths are passed down here and there, and they resort to such things. So you know that the anatomy of the female is different from that of the male and puts the female at risk for infections. And so when these young girls develop some signs of infections, maybe things like vaginal discharge or other things, they begin to abuse antibiotics by themselves without prescription. So they're a vulnerable group at risk of antibiotic misuse. So that informed our decision to reach out to young girls, you know, and because reaching the young girls also helped to educate, because that's the focus of this year's thing, by the way. The theme for this year is to educate, advocate, and to act. Act now. So part of what we're doing is reaching out like we're doing now to educate, to see these are the dangers of misusing antibiotics. Normally the body has what we call the normal flora. Normal flora are the normal microbes that coexist with us in our human system.
So how often should we take antibiotics?
You shouldn't take antibiotics at all except it is prescribed by a doctor. We try to emphasize all the things that will limit infection, like good hygienic practices, vaccinations, you know, vaccination, immunization. Those are things that can help you fight off infection. If your body is healthy, you're eating right, you're washing your hands, you have good hand hygiene, you're keeping the environment clean, you will not fall ill, you will not become sick to need antibiotics. So that's the very first step. And then when you are ill, get to the hospital. Don't walk over the counter to get antibiotics. And that's why we're also moving from education to advocacy, to advocate to stakeholders, to make sure to enforce the laws, the policies, because there are policies in place about antibiotic use. Antibiotics should not be administered over
because I was going to say that
without prescription.
Exactly. Because when you go to these chemists, because they are over the counters, when you go there and you tell them, I have this, they just mix whatever they can and give to you. I know we have this trust for them because they are, they are affordable. Unlike going to the hospitals, not everyone can afford going to the hospitals. So they are just like go-to when you have maybe an infection or anything. You just quickly go to them. I'm experiencing this. I
would say that that's a misconception because there are different levels of care. There's the primary health care, there's secondary health care, there's tertiary health care. And health care at the primary level is affordable. There are also schemes put up, especially in Enugu State, to have some form of insurance, health insurance at affordable cost. That is making healthcare affordable. There's some that go as low as 5,000 naira. For people to enroll into this health education, health insurance scheme, so you can have affordable healthcare. There's also the NHIS that is available to people that work in the public service to enroll. You see, I think the thing is that people don't have this information, and people are also not leveraging on available opportunities. I'm not saying that out of pocket is still there, and yes, there is expensive healthcare, but there are also cheaper, affordable, options, way cheaper than walking into the patent dealer to say, mix medication for me.
Dr. Chima, you know that there are some drugs we do not know are antibiotics. For example, flagyl.
Oh my God.
I learned that recently that flagyl is antibiotic.
What do you think it was?
Medicine to stop running stomach, or that was what our parents gave to us. Now then when we're growing up, if you're stooling and having maybe running, they just give you flagyl and it stops. So I was wondering, when I heard flagyl is antibiotics,
for sure
that means we abuse flagyl growing up.
Exactly, and people still abuse flagyl till today.
Please tell us about it.
Yes, that's the truth. So yes, like you said, there are many drugs out there that people don't even know are antibiotics, and they are used indiscriminately, both the duration, the dosing, the frequency, everything, So, and then there's another concept of my neighbor's child is sick, I use this for my child when my child is sick, or I use it for your own child. So many things. And then the danger is that we do not have new medication coming on board as quickly as the turnover for the ones that we are misusing. We have what we call the reserve drugs, the special drugs, but people are beginning to dip their hands into those groups of medication, and they are beginning to use it indiscriminately. So we foresee a big trouble where we develop what we call the superbugs, the resistant strains that do not respond anymore to these medications, and we have no other place to turn to. So that's why this call is out there to please curb the use of antibiotics. And I will still emphasize that our advocacy is to the government, the stakeholders, to implement, to enforce. Because I'm sure these policies are already there. Even the one I saw in the market yesterday, indiscriminate use of antibiotics, to enforce it, because we are running into trouble.
As we talked about flagyl now, some people will be saying, what should we take then? So what should we take when we are having running stomach instead of taking flagyl? What should we take?
I would recommend that you please see a doctor.
So even if I have running stomach, I should go to the hospital, Dr. Chioma.
There is a primary health care, and I'm sure in every suburb there is a primary health center there. In Enugu, I can count on them. We go to Ababa, there is one.
Okay.
We move to Inike, there is another one. There are places around you that you can access care. I think when these things are enforced, people will begin to look into those options, because they are there. Even in the rural areas, in Udi and other places, there are district hospitals, there are primary health care facilities.
Dr. Chima, I would really appreciate if you maybe list out some drugs we do not know are antibiotics that we abuse.
Okay, I don't even know which ones. Well, I will start because, you mentioned the flagyl. There's tetracycline. I hope you know tetracycline is antibiotic. Oh, yes. There is let me say, ceftriaxone. Okay. People go in and they give them shots. Okay, there's this common one, Septrin.
Septrin for cough.
Yes, Septrin for cough. Actually, there's a cough medicine. It's an antibiotic.
How come these drugs work for us? They work for us.
Well, that's the thing. So that we are developing resistance to them. It's not that they're not effective, but over time, because of misuse, the organisms develop resistance to them. And then once you introduce them again, they become inefficient. You now have to step up to another higher medication, a costlier medication. And then when you get there again, another group of people are also abusing that. Then you want to step up again. And before you know what's happening, you don't have anywhere to step to anymore. Okay,
Dr. Chioma, our time is fast spent. So what can we do as a society, as a people, and also in government level? What can we do to combat the rise of AMR?
Yeah, so let me start from the grassroots. Please keep your environment clean. If you are healthy you don't need antibiotics in the first place. Simple things, infection control, infection prevention and control is the key. Keep your environment clean, wash your hands, ensure that you practice safe hygiene, safe hygienic practices, excreta disposal, waste disposal, water, the water you drink good clean water. Get your immunizations, get your vaccinations up to date. Vaccines are free for the for children on the immunization schedule. Make sure that all the children get their vaccines, the free vaccines.
How about adults? Do we have adults?
Yeah, vaccines? We have some vaccines too. Like the yellow fever and other vaccine, meningitis vaccine. Yeah, get your vaccines. So the vaccines will help you develop immunity and fight off infections. That way you don't need to abuse antimicrobials. Then when you are sick, visit the hospital. See a doctor, get the right prescription, and purchase your drugs make sure that you get to a good pharmacist, or where you have a qualified pharmacist that can administer the medication, dispense it appropriately, and make sure that you take your medicine and complete it as prescribed.
All right, Dr. Chioma, you didn't give us the government level.
The government should please enforce the policies. Enforce them. So that
all right. Thank you, Dr. Chioma, consultant pediatrician, Nigeria Society for Pediatric Infectious Disease and AMST UNTH. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Marvelous.
And that's all on the news today. Many thanks for staying with us. Do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Afia TV Official. I am Marvelous Apomaga, saying enjoy the rest of your day.
What I got that kind of thing. This is Obey. That is what we do right here. Oh my friend, check one. Akwema no nyoli obona bo nyoli. Balo nyoli bi ato che bo jeli zoli na abane. Akwema no dani wudoli. This is Obey, the voice of the street, where the opinion of the people matters. Remember that every weekend, every week, I take you through different Obey to spotlight places. In fact, to tell you a whole lot of things around so many places. Ladies and beautiful gentlemen, on we go to wedding and keep as well, right? That is exactly where we are today. And I've got some information telling you most of the things happening right here. Not just most of the things happening right here. You know what I do now? One way or the other. Exactly. For most of you to know Agowa, expect a lot of touring. I don't do that alone. I always have somebody to take me through this particular Ogbe. Ladies and beautiful gentlemen, you want to see my tour guide, right? I know we'll call him name because he's a superstar right here. A very big name. There goes the other. So then welcome to Agoa, my brother.
Welcome to Agoa.
Welcome to Agoa. Okay, what we do right here is to make sure